you open Zoom, I'm like, dude, you are boring. Someone woke up with a side of sass this morning.
You have a plant. He's got a bear. All I have are baseballs. How's my lighting? Is it okay? Am I washed out?
Let me see it again. I was a little caught up in myself here. Now we're talking.
You might be pantless. We don't even know. So I don't know. It's an accurate depiction of Aaron Goldsmith. That's the point.
All right, here we go.
Inside Corner with Gonzo and Goldie, presented by Taco Time.
Welcome to the maiden voyage of the Inside Corner with Gonzo and Goldie. Numerous census groups did say that Goldie and Gonzo sounded better, but out of deferring to the opening day starter of the group, we will go with Gonzo and Goldie. Today, on our very first show, our guest is Mariners catcher Tom Murphy. First of all, Gonzo, thank you for doing this, man. You are kicking it in West Seattle.
Yeah.
You and Monica are hunkered down. Yes. And you're like, hey, why don't we not hop on Zoom with Goldsmith and just chat every week with a different teammate?
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like the best idea at the time, but, we'll see how this goes and see how good of an idea it really is. But I'm looking forward to it, man. I think, like I said, we got my man Murph on today. Should be a great time. He came to play. He came prepared. So let's get after this, man. This is going to be fun.
Now, Tom, you need to know that first of all, I signed Marco up for this idea before pitching it to him.
Yes.
And when I pitched it to him, I said, just know that if you say no, the idea is dead. So with that pressure, he said yes. And I said, well, who you want to talk to, man? Who's your first guy? And zero hesitation, Tom Murphy, number 2, is the first guy. So congratulations, Tom. I mean, you technically get nothing, but I think it should feel good, right?
I definitely feel good about it, but in my head, I'm thinking he wants a couple more strikes stolen during the year or something like that. There's some ulterior motive here.
There's some ulterior motive for sure, and I need to keep my catchers close. You know, that's the end goal of this. So that's my goal, man.
See, I feel like I've completely already dropped the ball just minutes into the show, episode number 1, because I of course, kind of the father figure of the show, clearly. I mean, I'm the technical setup. I'm essentially producing this as well. So I had a lot of things on my mind this morning to get this up and running, whereas you two, all you dwelled on was wardrobe, and you both killed it. So first of all, Tom, I assume you approve of Marco's T-shirt.
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of that, and truer words have never been spoken, for sure.
Tom, I don't even know where to start with you. First, tell me about your friend behind you.
Yeah, so this bear behind me, I actually had the chance to hunt in September in 2014, which has been kind of a rare occurrence ever since being in pro ball. But I was injured that year, so I kind of got it home early. And I went up north with my grandfather that day, who just kind of on a whim decided to call me and say, hey, early bear season's open up here. I got a spot I'd love to show you. Let's go. Let's just kind of head up there. It is about an hour and a half drive. We went up for the day, and it's not easy seeing bears in New York. It's one of those things where you can't bait, you can't use dogs. So basically it's completely fair chase, completely wild game.
Bait? You said bait? Like what kind of?
Yeah.
Is your bait like another hunter?
No.
Slower hunter?
No. So, I was just kind of stalking through the woods that day, and I came up upon this bear at about 9 o'clock in the morning, and it was just took my breath away, to be honest with you. And then before I know it, he was mine.
I don't want to derail the show, Marco, but I have so many questions about this bear.
I do too.
I'll let you go first.
Can we get some stats on this bear, like height, weight?
Yeah, so the bear weighed right around 400 pounds. We didn't have a scale to weigh it, but all the measurements told us that it was over 400. Being a black bear, it was pretty good size. And then when you measure bears, you kind of measure from nose to tail, and that was just over 6 feet long, which is also a great size for a black bear. It's standing behind me. My dad does some taxidermy as a hobby. This is real life, guys. Just so you know,
this is real life.
This is all real.
Yes, I love this. This is great.
Yeah, and so with a bear that size, I was like, yeah, we got to go big. We got to go big on this one. We did standing full mount of it, yeah, it's, like I said, it's one of my prized possessions for sure. And it sits right, and I'm in my dining room, so
I was going to say, are you in the living room right now? I was going to say,
room?
what room are you in? The living room?
Dining room. Yeah, we've kind of designated this spot. The living room, it wasn't the living room, so I could just enjoy it all the time. I hardly watched TV when I was in there, so I had to move it out of there.
Oh my
Just so I could
gosh.
focus on the moment. But yeah, we moved in here once we decided that the Christmas tree took precedence in the living room. So
Wow.
yeah,
It's incredible,
Tom,
man.
our lives are so different.
most are. I will say that most are.
Okay, the hat, Tom. What's going on with Crocodile Dundee here?
Yeah, so initially it was just the green hat that you're seeing. It's a felt hat. It was my grandfather's. My grandfather that I went bear hunting with actually that day. I've hunted with him countless times. He passed away last spring.
I'm
It
sorry
was
to hear
during
that.
spring training. Thank you. He was above and beyond one of my best friends in my life. If not my best friend. We spent a ton of time together, from coffee shop to his kitchen table to hunting in the woods together. Just a ball of life, just the life of the party.
Wow.
Big, old German guy, huge head, same color eyes I had. Like he had a lot of characteristics that made him very noticeable when he was out in public. This was his hat that he liked to hunt with at times. And then my dad actually kind of fashioned, I don't know if you could see it or not, like a bear claw type of chain around it. And actually, this is my first time wearing it with the bear claws on there. So
Looks good, man. And if you don't wear that to the field, it's a missed opportunity. on
That's
game
right.
day, when we do open up, that needs to be your first game.
Oh,
Please.
yeah, I think you're right. I think that's a no-brainer at this point.
And what is the name of the town you live in?
Constantia, New York.
Please spell that.
That is Constantia.
And how do you describe Constantia, New York?
Very down home, I guess you could say. It's very easy living. People are blue collar, almost through and through, and everybody kind of knows each other. And it's one of those types of small towns environment.
That's pretty awesome. And you said when we do like an interview, in camp, Skip kind of brings some guys up, and you were talking about your dad and him working as a mechanic and auto repair, and you grew up doing that too. I mean, your way around engines, cars. Do you still, take apart some stuff? Do you still work on some cars? Like, what's your involvement with that stuff?
I am very minimal when it comes to that stuff. I worked for him in the summer times growing up, pretty much throughout high school. And then I realized I wanted to play baseball. And I told him one day, like, hey, like my focus is going to be on this pretty much from here on out. If you ever need help with the shop or whatever, obviously I'm here. But I didn't get too in depth with learning how to do a whole lot of things to cars. He always kind of, put it in my brother and I's head that he wanted us to kind of advance our lives a little bit more than working on cars.
You must stand out in Constantia, New York, right? I mean, you're a big league ball player who is enormous, who's living in a small town. I mean, like, there aren't many big league ball players living in the Constantia, New Yorks of America, right?
Very true. I'm definitely the only professional baseball player from Constantia or from West Monroe. But that's part of the reason why I love living here. Most of the conversations I have here are quickly about baseball, and then about life and about hunting and about the outdoors, which is what people from this area really love and they really enjoy, and they know I enjoy that just as much.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool to have that community too. People who, they don't see you as a baseball player. They see you as, Tom, who's grown up there, and they know your family, and they have other things to talk to you about besides, how's this and how's this and how's this. It's more like, how's your family? What are you doing? And I feel like that sort of community is more natural. Sometimes we are just viewed as baseball guys, and we don't get to experience that side of, talking to people. Everyone wants to know about the baseball stuff, but no one really knows about other things about us.
Yeah, exactly. And my wife's from here. She grew up a couple miles through the woods behind where I grew up. So it's, we're very community oriented. We love where we live. We love the people. And that's something that'll never change for us.
Kind of along those lines, I think one of the things that Marco and I are trying to do on this show with our guests, and for Marco himself as well, is when you guys play every night at 7:00 and people watch it on TV or listen radio, people just see you guys as baseball players, right? Like, it's like when you see your teacher outside of school, like, no, they're a teacher. They stayed at school all the time. It's like, this is all you guys do is play baseball, but you have families, you have lives, you have other interests. We've already learned about some of yours. I'm curious to just know about your family, your wife and your kids. Can you tell us about them?
Yeah. So my wife and I got married in 2018, November. We chose to stay here in our hometown area so that our kids could be around their grandparents and for us to be around our parents as well. Both of our parents live within a few miles of where our house is. And then we have two kids. We have a 9-year-old daughter named Tessa, and we have a son named Jace, who's just over a year and a half old now. It's a very special time in our house right now because it's nap time, which is usually the hour and a half that we get to ourselves here. So it's a really unique time for us.
What was it like having that age gap in your kids? Like, did you have to go buy all the new kid stuff again? I mean, did you still have stuff from when Tessa was a baby, or did you get rid of it all and have to go get it all new? I mean, and you haven't changed a diaper in 9 years and 8 years.
Yeah, that's right. I actually, so my wife is very good at keeping things, I guess you could say, in a nice, polite way. So we had a lot of
as he peeks around, I saw that you're like, is she around?
So we had a lot of stuff left over, but at the same time, being a boy, obviously growing up's a little different with wants and needs and that sort of thing, clothing too, obviously. So we had a whole array of things that we needed to get and change, and the dynamic between the two is really special because Tessa can sometimes be like a second mother, and it's really sweet to see, really awesome. And she's doing a little dance right now because she likes hearing that. So
I love it.
Yeah.
How do you balance the season with your family? And she's old enough, obviously, to be in school, so I'm guessing she has to stay back there. Do you bring them out to Seattle? How do you balance that?
Yeah, so we've tried a couple different things, honestly. The first year we tried just being away from kind of spring training and then picking it back up when Tess got out of school, which was really difficult because that's a huge gap of not seeing each other. And being a tight-knit family like we are, that's just too long. We figured that out the hard way. And then last year we decided to be together the whole time, spring training, Washington, in which, for me, last year was kind of just a whirlwind, especially that last week of spring training. I was on 3 different teams within a week, so they kind of had a little holding period in Arizona while my career was getting back on track and finally found roots in Seattle. And then we've homeschooled the last couple of years, which presents a lot of challenges in and of itself for sure.
Yeah, I think that's something people don't realize. And Murph, you touched on it. I mean, you were on 3 teams in a matter of a week, and how unpredictable this whole career is. And I think what some people don't realize is that affects our families, and that affects the logistics of even having a family and knowing, where to send your stuff. I mean, you have, I don't know about you guys, I can't imagine, but just for me and we have a car full and sometimes a trailer full of our stuff. And so knowing where to put that and what to do with it, and you're basically just waiting for a phone call to tell you, hey, tomorrow you're going to this city, or you're getting called up, or it's not, you have a month to transition into a new job. It's like today or tomorrow you're on a flight.
Yeah, it was nuts. I mean, I drove out to spring training last year with a U-Haul and our car and our dog. And then my family flew out, instead of making the kids drive across country, because obviously we live in the northeast corner here. It's a long distance for pretty much everywhere I play. So yeah, it's hectic. I mean, and to think that, I was a Giant there for a couple of days, and, my wife's scrambling to look for an apartment in San Francisco. And then before you know it, I'm a Mariner. So that, those plans go right out the window.
Yeah.
So like Marco said, it's very challenging, to try and balance and find some sort of security for the rest of your family.
Tom, Marco and I were discussing training at home versus training in spring training at the complex with all the resources. And then Marco just directed me to your Instagram page, and we realized that you don't need a gym or actual weights. There are just heavy rocks around that you pick up and throw, right? I mean, you are the biggest social media star that not enough people know about. To tell us your and by the way, I'm disappointed in your social media overall philosophy of I'm going to take pictures of the boulder that I threw as opposed to a video of me throwing the boulder. Right, Marco?
Yeah.
I mean, we need more Tom chucking rocks and pulling trucks is what we need.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty new to social media. I've had an account for a while, but I just have never really put much stock into it. To the point that I didn't want to. I guess I should say I wanted to make something of myself, or at least have myself be known before I started kind of gallivanting around, in my opinion. I think last year it gave me a little bit of an edge to where I was like, okay, I know I was a major leaguer. I knew I could compete at that level.
Yeah.
Now it's time to start kind of venturing into these other areas.
Yeah.
And and the performance side of things, where I'm trying to kind of lay kind of a ground map for people to realize, what I do in the off season or how I train, is something I've been very passionate about for a long time. The way I kind of see it as, skill wise, I'm not the most skilled baseball player in the world. And that skill has actually increased a lot since I've been in professional baseball. But it's the physical fitness that has kept me in baseball long enough to allow that skill to kind of come through and to actually come to fruition. So that's why I'm so passionate about it, because I know how important it has been to my career.
Marco, can you shed light on Tom in the weight room?
Whatever I will tell you won't be enough to describe the type of animal that this dude is. And the part that, back it up, the part that you said, Murph, about you didn't want to gallivant your opinion before you made something of yourself, I think that can't be expressed enough, because really your work ethic and the things that you do at the field speak volumes. You could say no words and people will follow you. You'll be a likable guy and you'll be a respected guy just because of your actions. And so I think you said it perfect. Your social media can speak volumes about who you are, but you put your performance and your work ethic first. And then people will ask you, hey, how did you do that? Why did you do that? And that's when, okay, I have an opinion now, I can share this. And so I think that point's really cool to say, don't put your opinion out in front of your performance. Make sure you back it up first, and then you can share how you did it. So I think that's what's been the coolest thing following you and kind of seeing, you throw rocks around and stuff and tow trucks with just on your back. That's the coolest part. But the best thing I saw this spring was the video of you touching the banner in the weight room. Talk a little bit about that feat of, jumping up and hitting that banner in the weight room in spring.
Yeah. So, Cliffy, our head strength coach, James Clifford, great guy, very intelligent, helps us all out, was talking about these banners we have in the weight room, and they're very high up there. I don't know how high they're up there, but just looking at them can be a little intimidating. You're like, there's no way you can touch it.
It's like 12, 13 feet. It's got to be, it's above a rim for sure. It's above a basketball rim.
Yeah. And he was just talking about how nobody's ever touched it before. And I just decided I was going to challenge myself and try to go for it. And actually D beat me to it. D Gordon beat me to it, touched it. So then I immediately went right in there, and I had enough, juice from here and that to just go right after it. So D and I, and then Taiwan Walker were the three that ended up touching it. The only three that we know of. Okay. Yeah, he did. He made it look easy too. That guy's a beast. All three. It's pretty special. But that type of jumping, I guess, is more of a consequence of my training, not necessarily the focus of my training. It's one of those things where I train my nervous system to be as sparky and as jumpy as possible. And like I said, that's more of a consequence than an actual focus.
Hey, baseball players are athletes too, man. I don't think we get enough credit. And especially catchers. Right. Like, catchers don't get enough credit. You would never think, and this is not, don't take offense to this, but you would never think that a catcher would be able to jump. Am I right? That's just not the average opinion. Maybe an outfielder or certainly D Gordon, who's got some basketball background, but not a catcher and certainly not a pitcher. So pitchers are on the board there too. I love it. Taiwan, baby.
Yeah, that's right. And I think you're really seeing the narrative change on catchers. There's guys now that are way more athletic behind the plate than they ever have been. There's no doubt about that. And you look at even kind of like how teams are assessing who's going to be the next catcher. They're looking at middle infielders now. Even in the draft of turning middle infielders into catchers. Yeah. The position has become much more dynamic than it ever has been.
Yeah, I mean, look at Austin Nola. You know, he started as a shortstop, you know, coming from LSU, and guy gets converted to a catcher, and just because he's athletic and able to move around back there and got a good enough arm. So it's like you said, it's changed a lot, and that goes for, I think, a lot of positions are starting to see some change too.
Tom, will you tell us about the boulder? Like, there's a picture on your Instagram page of a boulder and a med ball, right? And essentially the before and after as to what you did to the earth. These two things.
Yeah, so that was a pretty special feeling, looking down and seeing just a crater from your effort, you know, being put into a med ball or a rock. But
That's
no,
legit.
I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, you know, a rock can be a ball shape. It can be any shape. It's similar to a med ball. It can weigh the same or more or less than a med ball. You know, like I said, there's the world is a rock. You know, our Earth is a rock. There's plenty of options to find weight and size and variation there. And then I also made the comment that getting back to those USSR teams and stuff like that, there's videos on YouTube of javelin throwers, of shot put throwers that needed different weighted implements that they didn't have access to, that they just simply used rocks, just different weighted rocks, and did the same type of movements they would use with a normal med ball, and got the same training effect, if not better, with a little more primal instinct in there.
It's awesome.
Now, when I read down here just some of your workout descriptions, Tom, which I didn't know what nearly any of them were, the one that I decipher, like you're pulling your truck.
Pushing.
Oh,
much different.
Please forgive me.
That's easy.
Forgive me.
Yeah.
You're pushing your truck?
Yeah. So one of the methods I really enjoy using, it's called the contrast method. I guess the simple way of putting it is the more specific it's called PAP, which is post-activation potentiation. So what happens is, say you pair a truck push with a sprint, you actually get more out of your sprint and you're faster because you push something that is way heavier and you're taxing your nervous system and firing your motor neurons before you actually go and sprint. So it's like the ultimate priming mechanism for your body before you sprint. So really, every time you do that, you're teaching yourself to sprint or throw or jump higher, faster, longer.
So in a sense, like raising your threshold to be able to push your body past a point so that it can handle, you know, a sprint. The sprint seems easier almost because you're taxing beyond what your body you think you can handle, and raising that threshold and raising that bar on both sides, which is pretty interesting. I think that's why, like, a lot of guys and a lot of programs that we've done too, it's like, okay, you do a dumbbell bench, and then the second exercise is like a med ball throw or something faster, where the bench is slow, and then you work a fast twitch motion in there. It's kind of like pairing those two together.
Yes, it's one of the more effective ways to train your nervous system, because it's almost tricking it to think that you're faster and that sort of thing. And yeah, it's been a huge part of my training for a long time.
Yeah.
I need a few more details on pushing your truck. First of all, like, are you just pushing it down your driveway, down your street? I mean, to the neighbors? And where are we pushing this thing?
Yeah, just the driveway. Yeah, it's a short range. It's probably 15 to 20 yards or whatever. Obviously, I think the biggest thing is you take it out of park. That's
I assume that.
Yeah, so it's got to be in neutral. Yeah, step one, put it in neutral. Step two, just push it. Yeah, and really, what you find too is that because the truck is heavy, you have to be pretty efficient with how you move, and that efficiency carries over to a sprint as well.
Cool. I think you got a long ways to go if you're taking it out of park. Maybe next time.
You got to get creative, though. I mean, you know, the tools that we have right now are limited, and the space that we have is limited. So, I mean, we're seeing guys, you know, figure out the best ways to get what they have to get done, and I love it. I think it's great info too, because it says a lot about who you are, Murph, and you're resourceful, but you're also not going to make an excuse for not getting a workout in, and I think that point can be made clear to a lot of people and a lot of young athletes, just anybody who's, you know, out there right now without anything to quote unquote get better. I mean, you have everything around you. You can find ways to get better. So I think that's the biggest point there too. I was going to ask, what's the hitting situation been like? I mean, you said you're doing a little bit of visualization stuff, but when you don't have anybody to throw you BP, or when you don't have a cage, I mean, that kind of rains down on you pretty hard.
Yeah, it does. I think the visualization has been touched upon, obviously, is extremely effective, and sometimes as effective as physical actually training, So I'm trying to exhaust that as much as I can.
Yeah. Hey, you mentioned the visualization, Tom. How in-depth does that get, and how often do you do that on a regular basis, even once the season begins?
The more in-depth you can make it, the better it is. It's one of those things where the more you can make your environment similar to how it is in the game, more similar to how it is in the game, the more you're going to get out of it. So it can go even as far as having crowd noise in your ears, smelling grass while you're doing it, some very tricky things to your senses to make it feel like you're actually in the game. Because the brain is obviously, the mind and visualization is extremely powerful tool. So any of your senses that can be as similar to how it is in the game as you can make it, the more effective and more powerful it's going to be. So I'm trying to use those facts to my advantage right now, and put myself in a situation where it feels like I'm actually in the game.
I think the best thing I've heard about using visualization is that your brain doesn't know what's real and what's fake. So I've had a lot of guys, and I've seen a lot of guys, and I've used it myself, of just watching a video of yourself, getting a ground ball or getting a strikeout, executing a pitch. And when you go to be in that situation, your brain thinks that just happened. I mean, your brain can't separate real from fake in that situation. So like Murph said, making it as real as possible is the best way to get, as close as you can to the real thing. And especially while we're in the times we are right now, I mean, that's all we have. So tricking your brain goes a long way.
Tom, it's interesting. You and Marco have both faced kind of like different forms of adversity in your career, right? I mean, for Marco, it might seem like, hey, this is like one of the most decorated players to ever play at his university. Hadley, thank you. Okay, we have a frozen princess, and we have Princess Elsa in here.
Yes.
First round draft pick, right, in a kind of a flagship organization, and then Tommy John hits. He gets traded. He's on his way back, and then he becomes an opening day starter. I mean, for you, your journey to Seattle, and then what has happened for you since you've come to Seattle is remarkable. I mean, you go to a cold weather school in Buffalo. They don't even have a program anymore, do they?
No, they canceled the program a couple of years ago now.
Okay, so they don't even have a baseball program anymore. There aren't many scouts going to Buffalo, right, to check out players. Yet you get drafted, you become a top 100 prospect. I mean, you're a guy. I mean, you're really well regarded within the industry. And then, as you mentioned earlier, you're with 3 teams in the span of days. You're DFA'd. You come to Seattle. You're out of options. Which, I mean, how often does a catcher with not that long of a major league track record who is out of options, how often does that really work out, right, for the team that he goes to? And not only did it work out for you, you have now ingrained yourself as a major presence on the field and in the clubhouse with this organization. And when you kind of look at it when you zoom out a little bit and look at it from that perspective, how do you even describe what this journey to where you are right now has been in your baseball life?
Yeah, it's been an uphill battle for the most part, I would say. Getting back to the whole college thing, going to University of Buffalo here in the Northeast. Coming off my sophomore season, which I ended up winning MAC Player of the Year in my conference. I didn't have any sense that scouts even knew who I was until that summer. And I got a chance to play in like an exhibition game against Team USA. And I was in the NECBL at the time, and we were at Fenway.
That's a collegiate wood bat league?
Yes, New England Baseball League I was fortunate enough to be able to play after that season. And all of a sudden, I'm in there in Fenway, and it's a pretty small crowd. A lot of scouts are there, obviously, to see Team USA. And I facing Kevin Gossman that day, who was a very high draft pick that year. I think it was a 2-0 or 2-1 count, fastball. I turn on it, and I obliterated it, but it was foul, off a Coca-Cola sign at the top of Fenway. And then next pitch, he hangs me a curveball and hit over the monster. And so,
heck yeah.
After that, my whole career path changed. Those 2 swings literally changed my career. I mean, I literally remember talking to scouts after the game that who had no idea who I was. And this is, catcher who just won MAC Play of the Year that just scouts didn't even know who it was. So to be in that situation is what I consider probably the luckiest situation to be in my career for sure. Just because without that, I would never have been drafted as high as I was, or been a prospect status or anything like that. And then obviously to get to Seattle was an interesting journey. But once I got to Seattle, I was surrounded by the right people, the right staff that got the absolute most out of me and provided me with what I've kind of yearned for my whole career.
It would have been easy to, I would imagine, like put a lot of pressure on yourself going into that game against Team USA. This is your chance, right, to really make an impression. Were you able to not think about that, or did you think about it and it just didn't affect you?
Yeah, I think it's probably always in the back of your mind that you want to perform well on a stage like that. But at the same time, I was coming off a year which gave me a ton of confidence. I'd never felt better in my life. I put in a ton of work with my college hitting coach, who's now the head coach at North Carolina Central University. His name's Jim Kerner. Him and I were, the amount of work that went into my career up to that point it's insane. I mean, I can't even count the hours, how much time and effort that man put in for me in my career, and really anybody that was willing to listen and to work hard. The funny story is I never considered my swing to be good. That's one thing. I hate my swing. I've always worked on it. I wanted to be better. I just remember one day in college before that spring season in which I kind of took off, he looked at me and said, "Tom, this is the first time in a year and a half I don't have anything to say about what you're doing right now. You're exactly where you need to be."
Wow.
And then I kind of took that into the season, kept it the whole time. And that's when I think my ideas of playing professional baseball became real.
What a story, man. I love it.
Yeah,
the one moment, that one game, you look back on and forever thankful. I wonder, so Gosman is a Colorado guy, and I faced him in high school growing up a ton. And so we've kind of been intertwined a little bit. You should send him a little letter. Thank you. Like, hey man, just want you to know, thanks for the cookie and I'll see you down the road. But that's right. Cool. That's awesome. And those opportunities, I think, the right people take advantage of the right time. And you certainly did. So that's an awesome story to hear.
Appreciate that, brother.
I'm curious what it's like for the two of you working with one another. I mean, you guys are cut from a pretty similar cloth. When people see you on the field between the lines on game day, you're both super intense, extreme competitors, not a lot of smiling, a lot of big eyes for one of you in particular.
I wonder who.
Who's that?
Right, but you get, obviously, as people are seeing right now, you guys away from the field, or at least anytime kind of before 7 o'clock, and you are incredibly approachable, great senses of humor, like guys who would be really successful in life, even if you had never picked up a baseball. So with that being said, Marco, I'll start with you. What's it like for you working with Tom? And Tom, once he's done, I'd like to hear what you say working with Marco.
Of course.
Yeah, I think one of the best things that I've taken from learning working with Murph is the way that he prepares. I mean, it makes me feel like I need to match that every time out. And when we sit down, and Murph can attest to this, when we sit down for our pitcher catcher meetings, at least last year, a lot of the work we were doing was on our own and really combining our two heads together to kind of be on the same platform, be on the same level. And when we start the game, when we go out there, he gave me really the idea that I had no doubt in my mind that I was fully prepared and I could just let loose and compete. And when you find a guy like that, when you find, especially a catcher like that, I think it brings out really the most natural competitor in you, because you're not worried about outside factors in this game. You're not worried about, what if this happens? What if this happens? You just know that when you get to that situation, you're gonna cross that hurdle. You're gonna be able to finish what you started. So, I think, truthfully, Murph, I do believe we're really similar in our competitive styles. And like Goldie says, I mean, when the game starts and I'm pitching or when the game starts for you and you're catching, I mean, it's an alter ego really. And then I think it would surprise people to know us off the field. And I don't think people get enough of a chance to do that. So like we said at the beginning of the show, I think hopefully people get a chance to see that today. But it's really been cool to mesh with Murph and be able to kind of intertwine the competitiveness. It's brought me to a whole new level. And I think it's brought both of us to kind of understand, who we are a little bit better too.
Yeah, I mean, Marco hit the nail on the head there. Preparation on both sides for us is everything. At the same time, Marco is an absolute catcher's dream to catch. I mean, the guy can throw whatever pitch he wants in whatever count. So game planning from that standpoint to me is like the most fun I can possibly have. It's putting the pieces of the puzzle together to hopefully have a great outcome. And I remember the first game that I got to catch Marco. I couldn't have been more disappointed in myself because he had a rough outing against the Cubs home early in the season, and he was on a roll before that. And that's whenever that happens from my standpoint, like I get extremely disappointed in myself, and I don't want to feel like the reason for a bad outing is me. So that kind of drives my preparation. That makes me feel like I really want to be there for my pitchers in whatever they need. So I better come with it every single day. And you look at Marco, and he talked about his competitiveness and his fieriness. Which day he's starting because he comes in and he's a different guy. He's a different animal. He's a different being because that's who he is on the mound. So he's from, the time he wakes up that morning, I promise you, he's that person. Whereas the other 4 days, he has the ability to kind of, reflect and get better and practice what he needs to practice and bring that intensity, but in a different way. Like I said, I couldn't be more thankful to be able to catch a pitcher like him that has an arsenal that he does that comes in with it every single day and brings the same intensity to every game.
I think the creativity too in like pitch calling, we can talk a little bit about that. Like you said, our game plan at the end of the season, it turned into, okay, well, we know what we're going to do because we've been doing the same thing every single game. And our creativity, like during an at-bat, I mean, the ability for you to read swings, for me to read swings, I mean, I wasn't shaken hardly at all, after we got towards the end of the year and we were kind of on a roll there. But I mean, talk a little bit about your thought process when you see a guy in the box and step 1, step 2, step 3 of what you want to put down and how you kind of come up with that.
Yeah. So to me, it's mostly situational. The situation is going to dictate what we can and can't do to pitchers or hitters, when we can take chances, when we can't take chances. Yeah. Going into a game, I know the percentages of every single hitter and every single pitch that Marco throws and the odds of them getting a hard hit or a ground ball or a fly ball or a swing and miss. Yeah. So all that information is kind of consolidated. And then all of a sudden the hitter is telling me everything I need to know based on the reaction to the pitches. So, by the time like Marco was saying, by the time the end of the season rolled around, we had numerous contingency plans if plan A didn't work. And that went from batter to batter, and to have those plans and to make immediate adjustments like that. That's how you have a sub-4 ERA in the year. That's how you become who Marco became.
Just barely sub-4. Hey, 0.01. It counts though. It counts.
that year before was not, So
I know, man.
To hang on your hat on, and to come with the consistency that Marco does in today's game and with his arsenal is something that's. Like I said, it's a dream for me because now I just sit back there and the hitter's going to tell me exactly what we need to do.
Yeah, it's mindless almost. It's like, okay, you can just slip into that competitiveness and kind of just be fierce and be mindless about your strategy. You can just let the game come to you. So that's what's cool. That's what's great about what we got going on. It's just it feels mindless, effortless. It's a great relationship.
That's right. You just revert back to your training. If you're prepared, you'll will out in the end.
All right, this is our first ever Twitter question. Remember, you can always ask our guest of the week a question by using the hashtag Inside Corner, or tweet Marco, or tweet myself, or tweet our guest. Yeah. Ian wants to know, obviously, there's a chance that hopefully the baseball season resumes, but there's a chance that if it does resume, that for a period of time, it's played with fans, right? Empty ballparks. Tom, what do you think it would be like to play in an empty ballpark?
It's going to be very different. Think about it from the catching standpoint. Noise is a huge factor in determining where the catcher is setting up. I mean, without any crowd noise or anything like that, the hitter's going to know exactly where I'm at. That's without question. I mean, I'm almost terrified of it because, like, how are you going to throw a fastball in, at any point? That's just going to become, miss. Yeah, exactly. You're not going to be able to do any of that stuff. I think that's something that really hasn't been taken into account, is that noise factor and how it plays out in a Major League Baseball game. It's literally impossible to be silent behind the plate. Obviously, I'll do everything I can, but it's a very scary thought to me.
Jane, I love this. Jane wants to know, guys, this is for both of you. Do you have a favorite quarantine snack? And whey protein is not an answer.
Marco?
Yeah, I'd say we're crushing the chips and guac. Just all kinds. I mean, chips and dips in general. I mean, that's just like a daily throughout the day sort of snack. Like, when in doubt, bust it out. Like, we got so many bags of chips in the cabinet right now. It's unbelievable.
That's great. Yeah, my family has been really, really big on acai bowls, and then just overloads of granola on top. I mean, granola's been the big one in our family right now for sure. But it's great because the kids love it, and it's a little bit better than just giving them ice cream,
So are you making acai? Like, you making the acai bowls yourself?
Yeah, so like you can just buy like the frozen packages of the acai.
Yeah.
They come in powder form too, but yeah, we load it up with some coconut flakes, some granola, a little blueberry, banana on top. It's solid, good mixture.
Perfect.
I don't think I need to point out how obviously different these two snacks are, right?
Very different.
Marco versus Tom. I mean, like that's. Like,
I really wish I hadn't gone first.
All right, we will wrap up with, Tom, what we call a quick pitch. This is going to be coming at you hard. All right, these are 100-mile-an-hour heaters, chin high. All right,
we're gonna switch off. We both got some questions, so we're gonna bounce back and forth a little bit.
You don't even tell them the game plan, Mark. Oh, sorry, man. Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Breakfast burritos or breakfast sandwich?
Breakfast burrito.
All right. Would you rather sing on stage or dance on stage?
Dance. Slipknot concert.
And specifically specifically the concert. Perfect.
Video games or board games?
Board games.
Scott Service is coming over to your house for dinner tonight. What are you making him?
Ooh. I'm gonna go down the freezer and pull out some venison for Skip. Treat him nice.
Oof, wow.
Yeah.
Lucky guy right there.
He'll get the back straps, not the under, not the bad stuff. So.
Not getting the lean cut.
No.
All right. I'm not sure if you're a wine guy, but white or red wine?
Red wine.
All right. Good.
Yeah.
Cheat day binge food.
Ooh, pizza. Give me pizza. I love it. Pizza and wings are my two favorites.
Yes.
Teammate most likely to have already made their own hand sanitizer.
D. Gordon, for sure. Definitely.
I like it. Okay, a couple baseball ones to finish us out here. Would you rather make an all-star team or win a Gold Glove?
Win a Gold Glove. That would be immensely huge for me and my pitchers.
Last one. Would you rather call a no-hitter in the big leagues or hit 30 bombs in a season?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm going to go with a no-hitter. We were really close with Mike Leake's perfect game last year, and that feeling was something special going into that ninth inning. So
yeah.
that one-time feeling, that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Was it like seeing a bear in the wilderness?
That's exactly what it was like. A Mike Leake bear is more like a cub, but with his
Love it. I love it.
Murph, man, this was incredible. Marco, I mean, what do you think? I mean, show number one's in the books. Was this success?
I mean, it was a huge success. I know I had to go with my guy Murph for show one. He brought the heat with the attire and the backdrop. So, dude, thanks for doing this, man. And it was awesome to catch up with you. I hope to see you soon, barring the situation. But dude, it's been an honor, and I love you, and can't wait to see you. Send our best to your family. Hope everyone's doing good.
Thanks, guys. This was an absolute blast. Hopefully fans saw some different sides of us and got a little baseball activity in there as well. Same to you guys. Hopefully everybody's safe and sound. Hopefully I'll be able to give you a big dap up here soon and we get back to things as normal as we can for sure. So thank you guys. Appreciate it.
You got it, Tom. Great seeing you, man. Marco, I'll talk to you again next week.
See you next week on the Inside Corner.
Thanks for watching the Inside Corner with Gonzo and Goldie, presented by Taco Time. Make sure to subscribe to the Mariners YouTube channel for more great Mariners content.